Aloha, folks, and welcome to yet again another edition of 5 Questions, an opportunity to learn more about folks that have an effect on our community and our nation at large. Today is no exception as we are joined by Michelle Bernard of the Bernard Center, and she is president, and she is with us right now. Michelle, aloha and welcome.
Aloha. Thank you so much.
The Bernard Center for Women, Politics, and Public Policy. Michelle, question number one is a pretty obvious one. Tell us about your center and how it all came to be about.
Sure. The Bernard Center for Women, Politics, and Public Policy was founded in December, so we are a newbie on the street. We are technically a 501c3 nonprofit educational institution, otherwise known as a think tank. But I like to call us a do tank because our scholars, other than just thinking about the most important issues affecting the nation today and talking about it in an academic sense, we also want to be a do tank in the sense that we want to do everything that we can to effectuate change. Mm-hmm. The mission of the Bernard Center is to advocate, support, and do anything we can to further comprehensive education reform, what we call smart government, and self-reliance as the keys to achieving the American dream. And a sort of subset of that mission is to do whatever we can to make sure that the least among us get involved with the most important public policy, whether it's foreign or domestic policy issues of the day, because we believe that every single human being that resides within the United States has a stake in the future of our country and has a legitimate right to achieve the American dream.
Amen to that. The Bernard Center, the name, of course, for Women, Politics, and Public Policy, and question number 2 goes to our state of Hawaii. Our previous governor, who was a woman, Governor Linda Lingle. We have representation in the House of Representatives by 2 women, with Colleen Hanabusa and Mazie Hirono. And it's wonderful to see that many key positions of power in D.C., including Secretary of State Clinton, that women in politics are a dramatic force. Tell us about where we are today with the role of women in politics and in shaping our policies as well.
I think that I am somebody who firmly believes that on the issue of women in politics, we are at a place where the glass is really half full. Things are looking really wonderful. I mean, think about it. We have had so many female secretaries of state that when we hear that a woman or even an African American, for example, is being nominated as Secretary of State or at the Department of Commerce or any place else, it's no longer this, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. People realize, well, why wouldn't it happen? This is a part of the American dream. We have women who are members of the Senate, of the United States Senate, women who are members of the United States House of Representatives, women who we see getting involved with state and local government, coming up through the ranks. I think it is a wonderful thing. And the most interesting thing for me, from my perspective, since 2008 is the emergence of what many people call red state feminists or limited market or free market feminists. And what we saw for example, with the rise of Sarah Palin, regardless of what you think about Sarah Palin herself or her politics or her policies, what we saw with the rise of Sarah Palin when she was nominated by Senator McCain to be on the vice presidential ticket back in 2008 was that we saw that there were thousands, literally hundreds of thousands of women who, prior to Sarah Palin taking the national stage, felt that they were feminists but didn't have a feminine voice. They were women who believed in equal rights for women, but, for example, felt that that there was a sort of democratic or left-of-center checklist that you had to meet, and if you didn't meet certain criteria on that checklist, you could no longer be called a feminist. And Sarah Palin really broke down those doors, and I think it's been wonderful to watch because what we see and what we've always known is that women are not a monolithic voting bloc. We have women who are left of center, We have women who are right of center, and all of those women want to achieve the American dream. They want what's best for our country, and they want what's best for women. They just have different ideas about the proper policies one should invoke in order to get us there.
Very, very well put. Talking again, of course, this morning with Michelle Bernard, and enjoying our discussion greatly. I'm going to go to question number 3, if you don't mind, and this has to do with an issue that you and I chatted about previously, and this has to do about regulations that have gone awry, regulations in our lives via the federal or even local government. Give us your impression of regulation in our lives at large, and what path are we on, and if it's a path that's not so positive, Michelle, how do we reverse it and bring back true freedom?
You know, it's. I would say that from my personal perspective, we have a government, and I'm not saying this with regard to Democrats only or Republicans only, because quite frankly, we've seen the regulatory process go haywire under Democratic and Republican administrations. And I think the problem that we have largely right now is that people are so motivated by ego and political party politics that they never sit back and say, does this make sense? What are the unintended consequences of the regulatory process? I'll give you a very simple example. You have many immigrants who come to this country legally, and again, they're here to, seeking the American dream, and they start businesses, and we've seen at places all over the country, women from Africa, for example, who come to the United States and they start African hair braiding businesses. If you were to go into any state in the union where we see this type of business and look at the regulations and the licenses and the fees that someone needs to deal with just to be able to open up a small business, whether it's in your home or elsewhere, just to braid people's hair, you'd be astonished, and you would say to yourself, how on earth does this promote economic prosperity? Mm-hmm. It absolutely makes no sense, and I think it starts from the type of economic education that we give our kids in school so that they can become concerned citizens, to really having public awareness campaigns and people like you on the radio who can explain to people what people mean when we say that government has gone awry and that we are overregulated. We can't discuss this in very academic, top-down ways. We really need to be able to explain on a very simple level how the regulatory process, if we go over, if we go haywire, for example, has a negative impact on our businesses. The issue that you and I spoke about yesterday, where this interagency working group, another faceless, nameless entity in Washington, is trying to pass regulations by calling them voluntary guidelines. Mm-hmm. That will have really an enormous impact on industries all across the nation and could potentially destroy hundreds of thousands of jobs, all for a viewpoint. All for honorable reasons in the sense that they are looking for ways to combat childhood obesity. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is, advertising doesn't cause childhood obesity. So why on earth would we enact regulations or quote unquote voluntary guidelines that are going to do nothing to help the childhood obesity problem and do a lot of economic harm to people, from anything from farmers to people who are enrolled with the Women, Infants, and Children program? It doesn't make any sense.
Yep, absolutely right. And folks can learn more when you log on. May we have the website, please, Michelle?
Absolutely. People can learn more if they go to bernardcenter.org on the internet, or to our Facebook page, Mom and Dads Know Best.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself, your background, and understand you're a recovering attorney, as you called.
I'm a recovering attorney. I am a lifelong Washingtonian, first-generation American. My parents immigrated here legally from Jamaica and attended Howard University for college and for graduate school. Mm-hmm. I went to Howard University myself, majored in philosophy and political science, and from there on I went to Georgetown Law School. I absolutely loved law school, practiced law for many years. I had the honor of traveling all over the world practicing international law, and public policy. I've been to some really amazing places, Taiwan, Nigeria, several countries in Europe. I did some work in Turkey and Guatemala, Jamaica. I've had a really, really wonderful career. One day, I looked up and I thought to myself, if I keep flying around to these countries and having to take malaria pills and get all kinds of strange shots, I'm never going to be able to start a family. So I left the practice of law to start a family. I have two beautiful kids. I'm an MSNBC political analyst, and I run the Bernard Center for Women, Politics, and Public Policy, and I love everything that I do. I feel very blessed.
That is the proverbial plate that apparently is full, Michelle.
Yes.
With all that you have going on, and kudos to be able to wear so many hats and do it well.
Thank you.
What I'd like to do is maybe on our fourth question is maybe look a little bit toward Hawaii. We have a very unique state in many different ways. Not only are we the 50th, not only are we an island state, our isolation is the most isolated in the world, let alone from the mainland U.S., but we are the 50th state of our union, and we confront various things ourselves, politically speaking. We're dominated by the Democrat Party, also by labor unions with tremendous amount of influence, and because we are somewhat of a closed community, not really going over state boundaries like other states, we tend to get this status quo not just for a brief time, but almost in perpetuity. With your knowledge or understanding of Hawaii, any comments about our state, and are we on the radar at all with your organization or even on the mainland?
Absolutely. Hawaii is on, is literally on the map, but figuratively on the map. People think about Hawaii. We heard a lot about Hawaii during the 2010 midterms and those very interesting congressional races that you had in Hawaii, and obviously a lot of public attention has been brought to Hawaii because of the president growing up there and going to school there and traveling back and forth between Hawaii and the mainland. And I think the most important thing for citizens of that beautiful state that you get to live in, the most important thing for those citizens to really take a look at is exactly what's happening in Hawaii, what's happening in other states, and really take a look at what you like and what you don't like and emulate policies that you do like in your state. For example, you mentioned the impact of labor unions in Hawaii. One of the things that we look at the Bernard Center, for example, is what I believe is the negative impact that teachers' unions have on our public K through 12 education system. And there's been some wonderful work done in California that some concerned citizen in Hawaii might want to pick up themselves, and that's literally the development of something called the parent revolution, where parents in the state of California have said enough, and they go to public schools that are failing, and they say, we're going to give you 3 years to turn this school around, and if you don't turn it around, we're going to build a public charter school right next door to your school. We're going to introduce competition into the education system, and we're going to develop a parents' union to combat the negative impact that we believe teachers' unions have on our public K through 12 education system. It's right out there in California. It's something that's fascinating, and it's something that could be replicated in Hawaii very easily.
Amen to all of that and more, without a doubt. Final question, because we're engaged in media. I'd like to get your take on media at large, and with the mission and the objectives of the center. How does media have an impact on what your mission is, and what's your basic observation of media as a whole?
I don't look at the media as an enemy as a lot of other people do. I think that the media plays a very, very important role in every single aspect of our lives. But what I will say that we have seen change a lot is the rise of the quote-unquote opinion journalist, and there are probably a lot of people who would call me an opinion journalist for that matter. And I think that for the public at large, the most important thing is to get your news from as many sources as possible, because it appears nowadays that it is more and more difficult to simply get the facts without getting someone's opinion about the facts as presented. And the most important thing that you can do as a citizen is to understand the facts and come to your own conclusion about what is right and what is wrong, what is smart, what is not smart, what needs to be changed, and the only way you can do that is to be a consumer of as many different types of media as possible. If you're someone, for example, who only watches the Fox News channel, do yourself a favor. Watch MSNBC and watch CNN and look at the differences in how the different stories are reported, and then pick out what you can glean to be the most closest to what just the plain facts are, and then decide for yourself how you feel about what's happening in the country. Do that with blogs, do that with radio. Get as many different sources of news as you possibly can. Even watch foreign news. I like to watch the BBC and see how they're reporting on things that are happening in our country, because you always learn something a little bit different and learn additional facts that you might not get from another source.
Well, I agree with you 100%. I enjoy watching BBC America myself, as a matter of fact. So, well advised, without a doubt, Michelle. And we've had just a delightful time chatting with Michelle for this segment. Can you remind us again of your website address and how folks can find you?
Absolutely. Go to the internet, and you can find us at bernardcenter.org or on Facebook. You can find us at Moms and Dads Know Best, or at the Bernard Center on Facebook and on Twitter.
You know what, Michelle? We wish you all the best. I hope you can join us again here on KHVH. And
I'd love to.
Continued success, and we'll look for you on MSNBC.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you much. Aloha. Bye now.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.